All right, so it's 1:15, and we have been thrilled to have the privilege to join the All of Us spring meeting. And today, if you were at the opening session, you had a chance to hear from Henrietta Lax's family. And we are honored to have our very first live real talk with the Lax family to celebrate Henrietta Lax, featuring none other than her very own son, Lawrence Lax, and her great granddaughter, Veronica Robinson. So you're in for a treat. They have a rapport that really warms your heart and gets to the heart of what we do is family, and the heart of what you do is research. And today we're going to have a conversation about their experience honoring Henrietta Lax and talking more about the importance of those collaborations with trusted voices like the Lax family. So before we get started, we wanted to share a little bit more with you about Heal Unite. It's the Lax family's latest collaboration that we're honored to participate in. That's reclaiming her story to conquer COVID-19. There's one goal, but three objectives, and the Lax family is working to educate, empower, and mobilize in communities. Through this digital initiative, you can learn more on their website, Hela100.org/HelaUnite. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So we're going to just go ahead and get started with the conversation again with Lawrence Lax Sr., Henrietta Lax's son, and Veronica Robinson, Henrietta Lax's great granddaughter. So Veronica and Pop Pop, how are you today?
We're doing good. How you feeling?
I feel great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we wanted to just thank you again for joining us. I know both of you have had a chance to work with so many different people in spaces and research and community. And one of the goals of the Real Talk program is to have real talk, right? And let people hear from your family about the real issues that you face and your journey with science and decisions that you've made as a family to participate and reclaim your story. So with that, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and a little bit more about your relationship to Henrietta Lax and your relationship with each other?
Well, I'm Veronica Robinson. I am the granddaughter of Lawrence Lax and the great-granddaughter of Henrietta Lax.
I'm Lawrence Lax, the eldest son of Henrietta Lax.
And who am I to you?
And this is my favorite granddaughter here.
You know, the rest I'm going to hear that.
Well, as you can see, this is why we love talking with Pop Pop and Veronica. He has just an amazing heart and he is going to tell it like it is. And I would definitely say he's probably her favorite grandfather too. Veronica, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that incredible story with Henrietta Lax and the fact that she's made such a big difference in the world. And Pop Pop too, because, we celebrated her birthday this August and your family launched the centennial celebration. Can you tell us about how your mom has helped the world, as you guys like to say, and a little bit about what you're most proud of?
Oh, wow. How's your mom like? Like, what are some of the things your mom did to help the world and what you proud of?
Well, when she helped the world, she came to Baltimore and she got sick and she had to go into the hospital to get some surgery. And they, from that surgery, it led to her finding some kind of type of cells that she had that nobody else in the world have but her. And that's why they started experimenting on them, because her sperm will last more than 7 days and they will never die unless they kill them. And the only way to kill them, they experiment on them and get rid of them, keep on like that till they find out what they want. And that's when her cells was so important because they stay alive. They were strong cells. No one else in the world had them cells but her.
Did that make you proud?
Yes, I'm very proud of my mother, and she contributed so much to the world in medicine that it makes me proud to have her for my mother.
I was thinking about like when they were talking about how her cells contributed to polio, in vitro fertilization, and just countless medical discoveries. And one of the stories I remember is her cells actually go into outer space before they sent man to outer space to test zero gravity. And it's kind of like your mom, my great grandma was the first person on the moon, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
So when you hear stories like that, it lets you know, like, she did so much, our legacy so strong. And just seeing the person you are today and how you speak on your mom and how you share the story and how you're always the first in our family to do things like she was the first, like to see you take over her torch, that's awesome.
Oh, yep, that's true. That's true. Because that's the reason why most of John Hopkins, stayed on us, because every time her said they do something wrong, they can always go back, get another part of her cells and bring it there, because her cells lives forever, the way I understand it. They say she'll live forever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Pop Pop. I love sitting and hearing from you. I'm sure so many people are really enjoying this moment with you as well. One of the things you talked about was how your mom was the first, and we know she was the first on the moon, but she also was a pioneer, as you like to say. And today at the opening, we saw you talk about a little bit about that in the video, but we wanted to see if you could tell us, how did you feel about your mom being a pioneer? Coming the first from your family, from Clover to Baltimore, and being the first immortal cell line?
I don't know.
How do you feel about your mom being the first from Clover to Baltimore and the first human cell line? And she was, like I said, she was always the first family member willing to help somebody else, like people coming to the home and stuff. How did that make you feel?
Oh, yeah, she was the first one that came to Baltimore. I remember, because I was a little boy, about 7 years old, and most of everybody that we were the first pioneer came from Clover, and they started moving to Baltimore so they could work down Spurs Point at the shipyard and at the steel mill. Most of everybody was at the shipyard because they were building ships during that time down there, and they needed workers, and they could go and leave and come back and replace them. So I'm very proud of her.
All that stuff she did to help in life, and she's still helping in death. That's
Yep.
an honor.
Yep.
I think that just knowing how much my great grandmother has contributed to the world and to the family, and her continuous legacy, and her acts of hero, like she's a hero. Like every day, there's not a person who don't tell us what her cells has done to help their loved ones. Things that our family suffered from, like polio, like because of her cells, that was the AIDS epidemic of her time. And it's something you've seen so often, but because of her cells, it's something we don't really hear about no more, and we barely see. So it's just so many different things that she's done to make us proud. And that's why we get out and we speak and we share our legacy from our perspective, so that we can help bridge the gap between science and the community, because it's very important because we all are in this together.
So true, Veronica. And I love to hear how Pop Pop talks about the Great Migration. And for you listening, when you think about trends, in communities of color and social determinants of health, the fact that Henrietta, decided to make that leap and come with her husband north for more job opportunities and, to change their life trajectory. Is one of those things that many of us see, when we think about the ways that we make our health choices. So I love that you share that story. Thank you so much, Pop Pop. So Veronica, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you about your journey that's been full circle. I know Henrietta made a lot in your family, and Pop Pop's the patriarch that's been leading the way. But you were the first in your family to actually work with all of us, and you shared it this morning in the opening. But we wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about how it feels and why your family continues to partner, even when there might have been challenges, to work with science and research and policymakers. And why do you think it's important for your family to have those partnerships?
Oh, wow. Great question. So it has been a journey for my family. It has truly been a journey, because it seemed like all the things that could happen bad was happening to the Lex family first. And my grandfather, he encouraged me to just keep going because, change had to come. And I remember reading a quote from former President Obama, and he said, change, we are the change that we seek. So going to the White House and seeing him speak about precision medicine, the All of Us research initiatives, and I remember hearing him. I was like, "That's my family story." That's exactly, and it gave me an extra fire under me, and it was just like, I need to be a part of that movement because we all have one common goal in the world, and that's access to quality health care, but we still seeing these disparity gaps. And I just remember, you know, sitting there and trying to figure out how I could also be the change that we seek. How could my grandfather be the change that we seek? How could our family legacy and the platform that we unknowingly got, being a family of faith of science, research, and medicine, how could we use that platform to bridge these gaps? And we just had an opportunity to start partnering with so many people. And so we end up from the White House to me actually participating in Chicago with Dr. Watson, Dr. Wynn, with the All of Us research launch. And it was like an honor for our family because it spoke volumes about our own family history and what we had went through. And it just everything became full circle. So it brought us back here today. And it was just like how ironic it seemed like my great grandmother has always been the narrator of our story. Like, even though she's gone, like it's like certain things that we didn't think we would be a part of. It's just like she would guide us into these things. And that's how we got to be a part of All of Us. And just being able to collaborate with people and to help bridge that gap, it really means a lot to the world, and it means a lot to us because we're starting to see that change is possible. My great grandmother is now she's affecting policy, and I think last year when we seen how people were being affected by COVID, we talk about a lot about social classes. We talk about the different health disparities. We talk about race and how it affects science and research and people being not included into certain research and things, because we all know we can't be inclusive and exclusive at the same time. But when COVID happened, we learned that it didn't affect just a certain social class. It didn't affect just a certain race. It affected all of us. And for the first time, we all didn't know what to do. We were all in it together. Like, we were all learning about COVID in real time, the same time together. So, partnering became a big thing for our family because we needed a way to get this information out, and not just to keep having these conversations at the water cooler, but to keep these conversations going so that we can continue to bridge that gap. So, you may have heard about Healing Unite, and what my family want to do to help, we want to help make sure that we can get rid ourselves of COVID. Like, we want to make sure that people can be healthy and things like that. And we want to make sure that everybody receive access to this quality healthcare, like that we all are seeking. So it's so many things that runs through my mind, but it's definitely important that if you know someone, or someone who's doing some type of research, or they're doing some type of advocacy work, we have to continue to partner with each other, because this is the only way we can bridge the gap. This is the only way we can help people face their fears and actually lead on these initiatives and have power behind it. We got to keep empowering each other by keep working with each other.
So true. That was very well put. And I know when we sat down with you and Pop last time, you said it's not easy, right? But You guys were the first, and you're encouraging the next generation. And tomorrow we're actually going to have Veronica's sister join us, who's a nurse, and she has been working to vaccinate many of the Lax family members and get
Yeah.
community members informed. And Veronica was one of the first people that made sure that their family learned when Pop Pop made that decision for himself. So we're going to go ahead and open up for some questions. If you have any questions, you can actually share them in the Q&A function. We want to say hello to some of our friends that we've been working with, all of us. I know Mr. Arthur Gregg is there. He joined us last year for the Centennial Conversation through the holidays. We know that Dr. Watson is going to be hosting a panel tomorrow, and he's been actually your last guest for the Centennial Conversation. So as we wait for questions to come in, Veronica, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about why you chose to learn more about getting vaccinated and how Pop Pop was the leader? Your grandfather led the whole family in getting vaccinated, and what that was like for your family.
Oh, wow. So I work in a lab and I get to see things from the other side. I also have been a nurse, a nursing assistant, and I got to see things from that side too. And I also cared for my great grandfather, Daylex, before he passed. So I got to see, how I got to be that caregiver for my family as I'm participating in being a caregiver for my pop pop. So when I found out that, like I said, we were learning about COVID in real time. And when I found out that my pop pop had made the decision to be the first in the family to receive that vaccination, I was scared. I didn't know how it would affect him. I didn't know who was included in research, how long research been happening. I mean, the fears that everyone has, even as a caregiver, even working in a lab, like, you know, our fears were the same for COVID because we were all learning. And my grandfather, he was brave. He was just like, I'm going to get it first before the rest of y'all get it because I need to make sure that everybody else is going to be okay. And I was just like, no, like, so I actually was able, and my family, we always say, in order to make an informed decision, you have to be educated. So I began to educate myself on COVID and the information that I got back. I was able to take it to my family and educate them. And I seen that by learning more about COVID, our fears no longer became if we would die from the vaccination or if it could alter DNA, all the wild cowboy stories we were hearing about it. My biggest fear became actually getting a shot. I don't like needles. So that was my new fear. And my grandfather got it, the first shot. I was like, okay, but I heard so many bad things about the second shot. And I was just like, I don't know about this. And he got the second shot and he was great. And he was just like, okay, you guys next. So like you said, my sister started administering the COVID shot, and she had the opportunity from her job to actually give it to our family too. And she administered to our family, and I was able to go to her clinic and talk to other family members who had faced the same fears our family faced and share all the facts that we learned and encourage them to educate themselves so that they can make that informed decision.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know we were there with your family, but I think what's really exciting is if you came to the booth today or saw any of the materials, we actually have the pictures from Pop Pop's vaccination on there. And if you head to our website, you can actually see the clip. It was shared in New York on one of the news stories where we were moving from talking about vaccine hesitancy to confidence and really taking on the piece with equity. So again, the Lax family was there being brave in spite of some fears and working through things. So thank you. And thank you, Pop Pop, for again being a pioneer. So there's two questions that have come in. One is, how did your family feel about the fact that Henrietta's cells were shared with researchers without her consent? And how do you think that research can do or has done better regarding racial injustice in research? And I know you get this one a lot, Veronica, so I'll let you answer it.
Okay, I want to thank you, and I appreciate you listening to my story. And I hope we can do this again sometime, because I'm very proud of my granddaughter. She have brought me a long ways too.
Thank you,
So,
Papa.
you always get me emotional on camera. So, Shai, could you ask that question again? I want to make sure I get it.
Yes. So, how did your family feel about the fact that the cells were taken and shared with researchers without her consent? So the HeLa cells. And how do you think that research can do and has done better regarding racial injustice in research? And when I read this, I actually thought about one of the things you recently said about, sometimes, are we back in 1951?
Yeah.
And I think that, I know people want to hear from you. So that's why I think it'll be interesting, for you to share your perspective, because this is what you guys do. You get this question a lot. But, something has changed.
Well, we want to believe that we have made it so far in science and research. And the truth is, in reference to technology, treatment, vaccination, vaccines, clinical trials, things like that, we have made it far. But in reference to the injustices that we see, sometimes I do feel like we're still in 1951 when my great grandmother received care, because we still face, these social and medical injustices with institutions that we depend on for our care. We still are fighting for access to quality healthcare, but we still see these disparity gaps. So I feel like we have a lot more, and we have a lot of change to make, and we have a lot of gaps that we need to bridge. And it starts with conversations like this. It starts with us acknowledging that something bad had happened, and instead of keep sweeping it under the rug, we have to face these things, and we have to say, a lot of times people aren't denying care. They're not denying that they're not denying the vaccinations. There's a difference between having being hesitant and actually saying no. People have fears, and because of things that has happened culturally to them, they're not sure what's going to happen. You think about the Tuskegee syphilis trials. You think about Thomas Sachs and the smallpox vaccine. You think about the Sioux Indians. You think about Henrietta Lacks and how her cells were taken without the family permission. And even then, when the cells were taken without our permission, my grandfather, his siblings were approached again. And it was more so, hey, we need to draw your blood to see if you're going to die from what your mom died from. It was still the lack of transparency, which we're still seeing today. People aren't being so transparent and the healthcare that they're giving people. And we're seeing that. And after they took the blood without the family permission, and then the cells were being released, and for the first time, we got to work with the NIH, and Dr. Francis Collins and Kathy Hudson had talked to the family, and we got some genetic counseling, and we got to actually, at that moment, we learned that in order for things to get better for other people, my grandfather, my great grandmother, being pioneers and being willing to be the first, our family took a step up at the same time and said, we're going to be on this journey together, and we're going to be a first, so that our stories won't become other people's stories. Because, I think it's not what you do, it's how you do it. If you ask, you'll be surprised of the response you receive. But if you take something without people's permission, you'll be surprised of how you can break not just a person, but you break a culture, because we've seen these things over and over and over again. So what happened to my great grandmother? No, in the beginning, we were not proud of how those cells were being taken. But we were definitely in the end, we because of having strong patriarchs like my grandfather, we learned that, and it's crazy because as a culture, we actually had to adopt the idea that sometimes bad things happen to good people so that great things can happen to the rest of the world. But the truth is, bad things shouldn't happen to a certain group of people continuously. We all have to be in this together, and that's what I like about all of us. Like, it's that term, all of us, because it says that we're all in it together. That's what I liked about when COVID happened. Something bad happened, and a lot of people suffered from COVID, but we all were in it together. People thought that they can escape on their yachts and things like that, but guess what? They still were being affected by COVID, and they still were lacking the knowledge and education that they needed so that they can actually beat this. And now our family gets to be, we get to step up and be part of the first movement and say, let me educate you. Let me show you what not to do when you talk to your patients and when you're giving these vaccines. Let me tell you what people's fears are. So we get to help people not just from the community aspect, but we also get to help from the medical point. And that's how you bridge the gap. You partner and you teach patients that you too are part of your own care. That, no one can make a decision for the one body, the one life you have, but you can make a decision together by getting all the information you need. So just our family's story and the legacy my great grandmother and my great grandfather left behind, it teach us a lot about this movement. It teach us a lot about where we actually lack, because a lot of people believe that we're doing great. We got vaccines, we got, new technology, biotechnologies jumping. People said that my great grandmother sells advanced science by 70 plus years. And without her, we would be in a caveman time. But hey, we might have been in caveman time, but we are still in 1951. And we have a long way to go. And we have to be that change that we seek. We have to reach out and we have to hold each other accountable. We have to say, this don't seem so ethical, even when we feel like it's going to be frowned upon, or we feel like our colleagues or like we're going to be sanctioned from a group of people, because we can't keep turning a blind eye. We have to know what the difference between hesitancy and no's are.
Well, thank you, Veronica. I have one last question for you. And I think you kind of touched on some of it, but I think you may have some other examples because I know your family's going through this right now. So the question is, how can we encourage our younger generations, especially our Black and Brown populations, to get the vaccination? And that's from our friend, Mr. Arthur Gregg.
Hi, I'm sorry. How do we encourage the Black and Brown community to be vaccinated? Like I said, Arthur, the rest of the world, all of us, everybody who's watching, it's simple, but it's complex. First off, we have to meet people where they are. We have to reach out, whether it's where they eat, sleep, lay, or pray. Second off, we have to stop pretending like things did not happen to people, and that and know that the cultural stories, our bodies being exhumed from the graves to get research on, these things happened and they affected us. And because these things happened and they affected us, people are afraid that they don't want to be just a guinea pig. They don't want to be an experiment, but they are interested in great health care. They are not just great health care, quality health care. They want the access, but they also don't want to be Henrietta Lacks. They would like to be asked.
I think that is a powerful closing statement, Veronica. And I want to say thank you to Pop Pop and you. I know that the chat has been completely lit up. So I want to just close by thanking everyone for raising their questions. sharing your thoughts with the family. Veronica actually reads all of these comments because she takes it to heart as well. And if you'd like to connect with Veronica or the family, feel free to email us at impact@helo100.org, or you can fill out a collaboration request right on our website because we're looking to partner with you. So thank you again and enjoy your general session.
Goodbye. Okay, thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Papa. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.